Don't you get it? Everything you were up to, your whole plan, they knew.
You just feel uneasy. Things clearly aren't quite right.
Crazy people, they're the perfect subjects. They talk, nobody listens.
Why would she write Run? That doesn't make any sense.
That's a great point.
But here's my theory with Shutter Island. I believe that Teddy is who he says he is.
Double! Andrew! No. My name is Edward Daniels.
Welcome back, movie listeners. I'm John. I'm a filmmaker.
I'm Matt. I'm a doctor. John made a list of 100 movies I haven't seen yet. I'm watching through them one at a time. Make sure I see them all before I die. So we're going through this project one at a time. This week, we're watching Shutter Island.
What, like, if this was a movie, like, if that was a movie, that is this movie, right?
That is this movie, for sure.
Yeah. Shutter Island, Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, Martin Scorsese, a different Martin Scorsese, I feel like. Have you watched, I know we have a couple on this list. Have you watched just like other Martin Scorsese films?
A few. A handful.
Okay.
Signs. Six Sense.
6 Sense. Got it. Okay. Dodgeball.
Dodgeball. I have seen Gladiator. Classic Scorsese.
Yep. Showgirls.
No, I have. 6 Sense. I've seen Fight Club.
I can't tell if you're messing with me. He didn't make either of those.
I've seen. You've seen the commercial for.
Are you joking right now?
The Pepsi challenge. You said that? Yeah, that was Scorsese, I think.
Okay, so you haven't seen Scorsese.
No
so
idea,
this is
dude.
This is a weird start. All right, so this is not at all like his other movies. But you know what? Let's get this one out of the way quickly. I think like you mentioned 6 Sense and Fight Club. Those definitely are not Martin Scorsese movies, but they do have something in common with this, in that they have like some of the biggest twist endings in history. So
I just, for everyone listening, I don't know movies. All right, don't hold
obviously.
that against me.
I don't know if you're going to have to convince anybody listening to this of that you just did that just now. But hey, movie lovers out there, give Matt a little grace. He was busy at med school, and
for so long.
I tried. I've been trying since 7th grade, but we got separated. I went and made movies. Matt, did doctor things, whatever those guys do. But we're back at it. We're fighting the good cause, and we're going to continue fighting it today with Shutter Island. If you are moved by my heroic action here, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Follow along on this journey. Like as we, try to bring some culture into Matt's life.
Thank you. I've been Philistine for far too long. It's time.
Yep, that's all right. I am Don Quixote on a journey to ride my donkey around and show you movies. And today's movie is Shutter Island. So if you guys haven't seen Shutter Island, this one above all is like an extra spoiler, extra spoiler warning. Don't let me be the one to tell you the ending. Go watch it. Go click the link and watch Shutter Island. But if you've seen it before, maybe came out in 2010. It's been a while. So let me show you or tell you what Shutter Island is about. In Shutter Island, U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his new partner Chuck, Mark Ruffalo, arrive in Ashcliff Hospital, a remote asylum on Shutter Island. Title: to investigate the disappearance of patient Rachel Solando. As Teddy digs through the locked wards, evasive staff, and his own nightmare of war with his late wife Dolores, the case starts feeling staged, and his grip on reality frays. The twist, spoiler alert, Teddy isn't a marshal at all. He's actually Andrew Laeddis, a patient. Chuck is Dr. Lester Sheehan, and the entire investigation was an elaborate roleplay designed to break his delusion and save him from a lobotomy.
What the f*** is going on here?
In the end, even after briefly accepting the truth, Andrew chooses to relapse, implying he'd rather die as a good man than live with what he's done. Man, didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody did. Matt, I was excited about this one because I could tell last week you didn't know the twist. What was that like first time watching Shutter Island?
Well, this is the first real like mind bender that we've had on our movie list so far. And we've had some surprises along the way, but From Dusk Till Dawn comes to mind. But this was the first one where, like, as you're watching through, you're like, no way. I don't understand what's happening. I can't believe what I'm seeing. It just, you get to the end and you're so disoriented. The whole movie, like, you just feel uneasy. Things clearly aren't quite right, like, the whole way through. And the way they made it, not only do you feel this sort of discomfort the whole way through the movie, but by showing it kind of in the order that they do, where Teddy shows up on the island. So our protagonist Teddy shows up on the island, and he is kind of trying to uncover things as he goes, trying to find this missing woman in this island filled with the criminally insane. You get to kind of see things not be quite right and cracks start to form, and he's kind of figuring out there's some other thing going on here. And you get to kind of experience the madness, the uncertainty, the bizarro scenario that he found himself in with him,
right,
as he goes through it because of the sequence in which you get to watch the movie.
right.
But because of how they do it, it does make the ending like really difficult to watch. And we'll probably go into some of that, but just with like how kind of where his life turns south. You get to kind of watch that whole sequence unfold and why he's why he's in the situation he's found himself in. It all kind of goes back to that one event, and you get to kind of watch that unfold. But by the end of the movie, it feels like a splinter when it shows up in the movie.
Right.
Like it feels a little out of place, I think, intentionally to make it that much more uncomfortable to watch. I think it was brilliant. The whole thing was brilliant.
Did it make you feel crazy, like, as it went along? Were you kind of feeling crazy for thinking a certain way?
I felt crazy for noticing things. Like they put breadcrumbs so that you don't understand.
Right.
Throughout the movie. And even in retrospect, I don't really understand what they were there for, except for to make me feel like I didn't understand.
Right. Like you're just losing grasp of reality, like bit by bit.
Right. It's just everything's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And even the way they talk about stuff, like they talk about violence in this movie a lot. And they always talk about it in a very bizarre context. Like, they're not talking about people hurting people.
Right.
They're talking about violence, like, theoretically, which is so bizarre.
Right.
Like, I don't want to dive too deep into the specifics, but when they're talking about, he meets the German psychiatrist, and he says, "You are a man of violence." And he's like, "I'm not violent." He said, "That's not what I said." Of course you're not. But you are a man of violence. They're talking in this weird conceptual notion of violence. And then he talks to the general toward the end, and the general talks about this hurricane that came through, and he liked waking up to the violence of the hurricane.
Right.
They just talk about things in a strange way.
Dr. Colley talks about we're on the front lines of a war. So the whole thing is, and I mean, this is in the 1950s, and so is, pre-Cold War era, Korean War, into Cold War. And so the war of the mind was very much the 50s and 60s.
True. And I guess he was presumably in World War II, right?
Yeah. So he was a World War II vet, and this is, I think, in the early to mid 50s.
Okay. And that's kind of immediately before the start of the Vietnam War as well, which is
Mhm.
like a fascinating time in psychiatry history, which we may
Yeah.
touch on a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, my first watch, fantastic movie. I loved it.
Awesome.
And you know, I've come to appreciate as I've gotten older movies being good, not because they're just fun the whole way through, but because they make you feel something.
Yeah.
And man, does this one make you feel stuff.
Mm.
And they just the stuff that they're showing you makes you feel so on edge and like off.
Yeah.
Like like the tag in your shirt scratching you. Like
Mm.
your shirt's a little off kilter and it's not centered right. Like it
Right.
just makes you feel weird. And
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that they were able to do that to
I'm
me.
still trying to get over the fact that you thought Signs and Fight Club were Scorsese.
I know. I'm just throwing out random
Okay,
stuff.
all right.
Man.
So
I
yeah.
figure you shotgun enough movies, you're gonna hit a Scorsese.
Well, I mean,
somewhere.
Scorsese, I think, is the king of that, of tone, right? Like
Mm.
Taxi Driver. There's some other Scorseses on this list that we're going to get to eventually that are just that. I mean, they're hard to describe. I say this is an outlier of a Scorsese movie because it's so plot driven or story driven. You know, it's most of the time they're very broad on plot, more story in terms of like slice of life or whole life. You know, he'll tell 40 years of a guy's life. And it's not really much about like, here's happens and this happens. And it's much as like, it makes you feel the whole time. But he's very specific with that. Through rewatching this movie, obviously I wanted to take a different, viewpoint on it. As a filmmaker, I'm not going to start picking apart a Scorsese movie. I know better than that. So I'm not going to do that. But I did want to give it a different look. So this movie is interesting because it came out in 2010 and obviously starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And it reminds me of another 2010 movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's Inception. And the main thing about it, obviously beyond being a psychological thriller, is it ends on a point in which could be considered open-ended, right? You're not really, it has the spinning top at the end of Inception, and you're not sure if he is in the real world or if he's still in a dream. And to an extent, that's what these podcasts are for, right? To leave enough breadcrumbs for these guys to argue. And this movie kind of ends with that, right? In the sense of you've essentially gone the whole journey with him and they're trying to convince him of the truth, which is that Teddy is actually Laeddis, Andrew Laeddis, the man he hates, and he's trying to. And so he has that moment where he's decided, I'm just going to kind of accept the lie, almost like a Matrix style. Except I wanted to look at it with a different point of view, and I did this time, and my eyes are opened. So, not to kind of, leave it going too much, but here's my theory with Shutter Island. I believe that Teddy is who he says he is, and that he is not Andrew Laeddis. So it all began with this search for Andrew Laeddis, and he was actually getting suspicious with the people on Shutter Island that they were doing these psychological experiments on patients. And I believe his wife died in a fire, that he had no children, and that he was coerced to believe all these things in order that they could mentally break him and that he wouldn't out Shutter Island. Right? To a degree, they even said it so that they could discredit him in a way that nobody would believe him anyway, because he's crazy and he was pushed to break from all his PTSD from the war. Right? So I have some major points here that I want to go over. Number one, the setting is the storm. He can't leave because of the storm. Right? But then at the end, Dr. Colley says, oh, I've heard this story so many times, the storm. Hang on. You're saying he invented a hurricane in his brain and that everybody on the island is just coming along with it? What was happening in all this? Well, they just destroyed the property just so that they could have but there's better ways of not getting off the island. Just say the ferry broke down. I mean, that already seems like a huge issue. They're coming into the island. Obviously, the guards are on high alert. They take their guns because if he's really onto them doing an investigation, they're not going to let him have a gun. And they quote this federal penal code, whatever 312. I'm a nerd, so I looked it up. That's not real. That's not a real thing. That has never been a law. And I know it's a movie, but if we're going to go on realism here, that is not true. Absolutely, a U.S. Marshal can bring a firearm into any kind of federal penitentiary. The guard lets it slip that the intelligence agencies are working with him.
What do intelligence agencies want to consult a psychiatrist about?
I guess you'll have to ask him.
Why would the intelligence agencies be working with a mental institution? It doesn't make sense unless they're doing some shady experiment crap. They start off with saying in the history of they used to torture people. So this is not this place does not have a great reputation as it is. They're headed up by this German doctor who Teddy already has suspicions that he's a Nazi. Teddy, we'll go into it later but he has plenty of experiences with Dachau and the Nazis. When Teddy is going through his search of Rachel, of her room, he finds this paper. And if you look at the guards, when he finds the paper, they all look really nervous, right? Like if they planted that for him, why would anyone look nervous? Why would anybody look at each other? In fact, when he interviews the orderlies or any of the staff, they all look really nervous, right? So if this whole thing is set up just for Teddy to realize he's Andrew Laeddis, why would anyone be nervous about that? Right? They set up.
If I can interject here, kind of the counterpoint to that, and this is maybe a little bit of a loose counterpoint, but that little slip of paper did not seem easy to find.
Right.
So it almost seemed like he knew where it was. Mm-hmm. And if he had made it, if that was his room, if he is the patient, then he would know where it was.
Right.
And then finding it, may make sense.
It's possible.
And maybe again, that doesn't disprove your theory. It's just maybe a slight hint in the other way. And I think this movie was probably made with this intention. Kind of like you pointed out a second ago.
Arguing about it. Exactly.
Yeah, of us disagreeing and kind of there's cracks in both theories, but yeah, go ahead.
So as they're interviewing interviewing the orderlies, she says the only thing remember is Rachel complained about the food, right? My theory on that, I think the food was being drugged. I think all of the people there are being drugged in the food, and which is why she didn't want to eat it. The real Rachel didn't want to eat the food because she didn't want to continue being drugged. When they're interviewing the lady, in that room with the water, we'll go into that, but she writes run, right? As soon as Mark Ruffalo's character writes away, she grabs the thing and writes run. Why? If this whole thing is, if she knows that he's Andrew Laeddis and that this is just to try to help him, why would she write run? That doesn't make any sense, right?
That's a great point.
I think the whole thing is around the drugs. And I watched the movie again with looking at the drugs, specifically about as he gets on the island, right? The longer he stays on the island and the more cigarettes they give him, the more food he eats, water he drinks, the more time that literally Dr. Colley gives him meds, the more he starts to change his opinion and change little details. For example, I mentioned at the top, I believe that his wife did die in a fire, right? The first half of the movie, the first act of the movie, he won't touch fire. He won't light his own cigarette, right? Mark Ruffalo's character always lights his cigarette. After he gives him the pill because of his headaches, he starts lighting matches, right? And now it changes from an aversion of fire to an aversion of water. Almost like they wanted him to be afraid of water. And a really big point of this, speaking of fire, he goes in the cave, he meets potentially the real Rachel, and she mentions something. And this to me is like one of the biggest points. She says, I realized they were shipping in sodium amytal, right? So quick thing about Rachel. Who is she? Either she's a figment of his imagination, which doesn't make any sense because she's saying information that he doesn't know. So that's not possible. Or she's another set up fake Rachel, in which why would they say this stuff to more intentionally push him away from what they want him to believe?
You were a nurse?
I was a doctor, Marshall.
So she says they're shipping in sodium amytal. Do you know what that is? I mean, I'm sure med schools, set up. Do you know what that is?
It's a barbiturate. It's basically a sedative and hypnotic is what that
is. It is. Now, I Googled that specifically. And so I'm not a doctor. I'm even less so, you can knock me all you want. This is on the Wikipedia that I looked up for this thing. But this part specifically seemed extra damning. Here's what it says. I'm just going to read it directly. The use of amobarbital as a truth serum, which is what they call it originally, a truth serum, has lost credibility due to the discovery that a subject can be coerced into having a false memory of events. So they're shipping in sodium amytal, and it's known for not being trusted in the psychological community or the psychiatric community because it can be coerced into having false memories, which this whole thing is them essentially trying to coerce the actual Teddy that he's not Teddy. He is Andrew Laeddis. He is the man who killed his wife that he hates. So when he goes into the Civil War prison, basically, he sees George Noice in that cell. And he recognizes him, obviously. And he says, you did this to me. I was out and now I'm back and you put me back in here, which they don't really explain that. What does that mean? Unless George Noice was an informant working with the marshal's office and that he got out and that he sent him back in.
I was incidental. A way in.
George Noice.
Talking, I'm back in here because of you.
George, how did they get you out of Dedham, huh? However this happened, I'm gonna find a way to fix this. You understand me?
I'll never get out now. I got out once, not twice, never twice.
Just tell me how they got you here.
They knew! Don't you get it? Everything you were up to, your whole plan. This is a game. All of this is for you.
So that whole last scene with the doctor in the lighthouse, right, is where he's going line by line and basically just systematically disproving anything that Teddy believes, right? All of that stuff can be backtracked from what they know. Remember, there's that big council meeting with all the board members, and they say law of four. I love that. I think that they're backing in things. They're gaslighting him basically with the help of drugs to plant new memories in his brain to discredit him as a U.S. Marshal so that he doesn't blow the cover.
How do you believe a crazy guy?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Crazy people, they're the perfect subjects. They talk, nobody listens.
And in the end, he's sitting there and he is accepted that he is Andrew Laeddis. And then that's the twist ending that most people look at of, all right, is he really Andrew Laeddis or is he Teddy? And he says the kind of line of, better, maybe it's better to be accepted. And then here's the key for me. The whole thing is, he relapsed, right? He relapsed back into his old thoughts. I don't think he was the one who relapsed. As he's walking away, right? Chuck, Mark Ruffalo's character, calls out to him. Does he call him Andrew? No.
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?
Teddy?
He calls him by his real name. Why would Chuck / Dr. Sheehan, if they're trying
Teddy
to make him convinced that he's Andrew Laeddis, why would he call him Teddy? Because he is Teddy. He's not Andrew Laeddis.
Fascinating.
Telling you, man,
That
this movie's
is
got
a great
depth.
point. That's
Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Man, him calling him Teddy at the end does put a bit of a hole, doesn't it?
Yep.
I was looking at. I spent a lot of time thinking about the scene where the doctor is in the cave. Dr. Rachel Solando, we presume.
Yep.
Well, I guess she's been there a while. It seems like.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of things. I have a question for you about how that was filmed. And some of the choices that were made with that.
Right.
But when I was watching it, she said that when she's describing the transorbital frontal lobotomy, so transorbital just meaning it goes through the eye.
Sure.
She used the term ice pick to describe what the tool that they're using to manipulate the brain. And at first I was like, okay, that's a clear flaw. So if she is his hallucination, then he would use the term that he knows, which in common parlance that is referred to as an ice pick.
Right.
But I did a little research on the tools that they use for that. And the initial procedures apparently were actually done with a literal ice pick.
Gosh.
Before they made their own tool to do that job, which they call an
That's horrible.
orbitoclast. Which is basically the same thing, a long metal spike you can use to mess up the frontal lobe. So that, the frontal lobe is it's the decision maker. All of your executive function, how you make decisions, how you go about living your life essentially is in the frontal lobe. So the people who were lobotomized are essentially like zombies, they're alive, but are they really thinking people at that point? It's hard to know. Like this is
right. Like
this is
like
where
the lady
you
when he
live.
walks in at the beginning, just looks like Gollum. Talk about with like the freaking dude. Honestly, if Gollum does this to me, I'm out. I'm out of there. I'm not hanging around this place. I don't care what job I'm trying to do.
Dude, I mean, she had the rage virus from 28 Days Later. She had that.
Definitely.
I mean, look at
that, and she had the precious.
Dude, you should look at that scene. Her eyes look like rage virus eyes. Red rim around.
You know what's funny? Like, I remember watching this movie in theaters, and the only parts of the movie I remember is how I felt like in the big twist ending, and then how I felt seeing her like in theaters. Seeing her like literally actually made like my head tingle. Like she is so terrifying. Whoever they did with the makeup
100%.
and all that, like they did an amazing job.
Fantastic.
And I don't know what the point of that scene is, but it's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So
it's I had a thought that maybe she was shushing him because she is actually an insane person, and the whole place was supposedly in on it. Right, that's the story that Dr. Cowley pitches at the end.
Right,
that this was the most elaborate, like reenactment or what's the term he used? Like a charade, the most elaborate charade that's ever been performed. And so, if all of these patients are in on this as well, some of them are a little, more out there than others, and maybe she was told you need to be quiet and not say anything to him, and so she does this, or
she is another person who came knocking, asking questions that she shouldn't have been asking. They gaslit her and gave her a lobotomy. So she sees a U.S. mark and the rage. They really shouldn't have done that. They really should not have given her the ring of power and stuck her in a cave for 1,000 years. But I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like this could have happened multiple times. We don't know that Teddy's the first one that's come knocking that they essentially gaslit into lobotomy.
Right. I mean, I think if the theory you're espousing is true, we can say he's certainly not the first. Just because if they need, I guess the one problem with it is, why do they need him?
They don't.
So exactly.
I don't think they do.
What would be the point of all of this if they?
Because he's asking questions. Because he's asking questions, and I think the federal government's obviously involved, and they don't like that he's asking questions. So this is the best way to do it.
Well, your theory works if there's a real Andrew Laeddis who did burn down his house.
There is a real Andrew Laeddis, and he's played by Casey from the Ninja Turtles. I don't know why I recognized that, but when I saw the guy with the scar, is Casey from Ninja Turtles.
Wow.
I thought it was the guy from Law and Order first, but I had to look it up. It wasn't like I was like, "Hey, is that the Law and Order guy?" It's not. It's the guy from Ninja Turtles, Casey.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So if the real Andrew Laeddis was on the island and he was asking questions to find him, then that theory holds up because he went to the island to find Laeddis. Yeah. And then they captured him because he was asking questions.
He said
That
it.
makes
He
sense.
said it. He told Mark Ruffalo, he told Chuck that, all right, when he started to trust him, he was like, all right, look, I was looking for Andrew Laeddis. They said he disappeared. I believe Andrew Laeddis is 67. But they said he disappeared, and in looking for him and investigating more about what is this place that they're holding him, and maybe this has happened more. Maybe it's weird that all these people have started disappearing on this island. I think he started to uncover what they were doing. I think the feds caught on, and I think they said we gotta get rid of this guy, and that's how they did it.
A lot of people know about this place, but no one wants to talk. It's like they're scared of something. This place is funded by a special grant
From the House Un-American Activities Committee.
UAC? And how exactly fighting the commies from an island in Boston Harbor?
By conducting experiments on the mind. At least that's my guess.
So I guess in your theory, did they already know they were going to keep him as a patient before he came to the island? Or was it only after he started asking questions about Rachel Solando and then realized that I guess she wasn't
We know the
real?
agencies. We know the agencies are involved. So like we said before, this is post-war, pre-Cold War era. Psychological warfare is the tool of that time. So this is their way of ending his life, is by discrediting him and lobotomizing him and making him a zombie. They don't even have to kill him. They discredit him and they end his brain essentially. And then now he is absolutely no threat to them for the rest of time.
All right. So I guess in your theory, Rachel Solando is real and she is in that cave.
The second Rachel Solando is real. Yes.
Yeah. And so I guess in your theory, they bring him out to the island because he's a threat, or they actually his plan was actually working and they invited him to the island to find Rachel Solando, and then he turns on him.
I think in a real marshal's office, if they know that there is a conflict of interest, like going to investigate somebody who killed your wife, there's no way they're going to do that unless they got a word from down or from up high, sent him to the island to investigate this. And then he just cracks while he's out there because he has PTSD and his wife is dead. He also these traumatic events. Andrew Laeddis has triggered this, and now he's crazy. The storm basically just held him in, which is convenient for them to have a hurricane as soon as he lands. But sometimes movies got a movie. This is basically, Jurassic Park had the same inciting incident.
Great example.
So this is basically Jurassic Park if Dr. Allen became a dinosaur at the end of the movie. He just found out he was a dinosaur. And that was the twist. And he just accepted being a triceratops.
Yeah, I don't know where, I have a point to make. I don't know where this fits. I did notice that we don't really see anyone else until he goes into Block C, and even then not really anything particular, but we don't really see anyone else being violent. And this is apparently a place for the criminally insane, super violent people.
Right.
And the hydrogen bomb enthusiast is the only person we see do anything aggressive at all.
Right.
When he tackles him, he's like, hey man, hydrogen bombs are a real problem.
Yeah.
That's it.
It starts with him playing tag, in which Teddy takes off. Teddy really did not want to be it. He goes, tag, you're it. And Teddy's like, you son of a. That made him furious.
Yeah, he left his partner behind. He hoofing it down the halls.
Just into this creepy cave of criminally insane people just in the name of tag, you're it.
Well,
sound logic.
Who wants to be it?
No one. No one. And it's worth the risking your life.
In this case, it was. And then he almost risked that guy's life. He's choking him before his partner shows up.
It's because he was it again. He hated that.
I guess when the other guy tackled him, then he's it again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
Mm.
Didn't they say no tag backs at any point?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That scene was really cool, by the way. The scene where he was talking to George Noice and he has the matches and how they just keep going out. And Noice just gets closer and closer, the face and just I mean, that's Scorsese. Like, again, it's very interesting because this is probably the closest thing he's done. If I'm wrong, don't beat me up, film nerds. But I think this is probably the closest thing he's done to like a horror movie. But it's just the direction shows through, man. It's so strong. Just the lighting it and it burning his finger and going out, goes dark, lighting it again, the tension of it, so good.
Right. And then, with fire being such a theme in the movie too.
Right.
Like, it was very cool. I just think it's interesting, and I know this wasn't intentional, but George Noice's character, that actor, Jackie Haley, was Rorschach. In
Watchmen.
Yeah. Which Rorschach famously wears a psychiatric test on his face. I just thought it was a funny little coincidence.
It was. I don't know. Was that movie out by then? Watchmen?
No, I don't think it was. But I'm not the movie guy, so
I don't know. Maybe.
And it did raise the question: who was locked in there with who?
Apparently, his wife was in the corner sometimes. You're locked in here with me.
Which is a great scene, by the way.
It is a great scene, and I don't know. Always reminded me of Dark Knight.
I would say, to your point, Teddy doesn't really hallucinate until he gets to the island. And he starts getting these headaches, and they start giving him pills,
cigarettes, pills,
who knows
food,
what those
water.
are.
Yeah,
and then he starts seeing his deceased wife show up.
Right.
So these are hallucinations. These are visual and auditory hallucinations. He's telling him what to do, telling him what to think. And this is actually rather true to life with people who are hallucinating.
And with wives.
Now, what kind of drugs would you give somebody to make them hallucinate like that? I don't know. That
the ones that they were shipping in, the friggin' what's it called? The sodium amytal. The dreams literally shift as the movie goes. So like when he's sober, it starts off with him and his wife in the apartment, and he hugs her, and she burns.
In the fire,
right, and the fire, and like there's like little subtle things, like a little bit of water coming through, and like the outside, but mostly it's the fire, right? There's no kids. There's no mention of kids, right? And then the first time we actually see his daughter is she's as one of the Holocaust victims. So like I think that he's blending some things here, right? Because he sees the fake Rachel in there with him, right? And so I just think he's blending things, and I think that this is that false memory of the sodium amytal that is from their prodding and from their little things. I mean, literally, his detective is a psychologist or psychiatrist his partner who is just feeding these things in him, and they're giving him drugs, and then as the movie goes, and obviously he's having more exposure to this, the dreams are completely like separate from that. And now it's just about water, and then he's having these vivid flashbacks. But again, who knows that's if they didn't inception him, to go back to my first point. How do you know that they didn't plant these thoughts in his brain?
Right. And I guess they do have Teddy say the line that nobody can ever take a man's memories away. And so if he had a daughter and other children, that is something that the movie indicates he couldn't forget.
Right.
And he seems to have, if the movie is telling us the truth.
Right.
About him being a patient the whole time. So I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. If he is actually Teddy and he's not Andrew.
Right.
Which, a Teddy Daniels, I think, just name-wise, I've met Danielses. I've never met a Laeddis.
Yeah.
And it being an anagram and all that is really convenient, I guess.
That's true. It could be made up. And Andrew Laeddis might be completely made up, and then the fire just happened.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, he lights enough matches and smokes enough cigarettes for it to have been an accident.
You think he did it? You think he actually
Maybe he did and he didn't know. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean,
cool point about that scene with the first dream.
She's still here.
Who? Rachel?
She never left.
The song, it's called on the Nature of Daylight, right? It was used heavily in The Arrival. Have you seen The Arrival with Amy Adams?
Yes.
Okay. So that was basically the soundtrack of that. But that song had been around for a number of years. Actually was first used in a movie with Will Ferrell called Stranger Than Fiction.
Oh, I love that movie.
So interesting thing about that is the scene in which that song is used is the scene in which the narrator goes silent, basically. So the whole time the narrator is telling him his life, and then now the narrator is not there anymore to tell him how his life is supposed to go. And that is the scene in which plays that song. And in this movie, in contrast, the time that it's playing that song is the only time where he's having a dream that may be truth. And that the narrator, being Dr. Cowley, is telling him how his life is supposed to go and when he's supposed to live and die.
I think they do try to make it not ambiguous, I think, maybe at the end, because the guy who is his partner the whole time is actually a doctor there. I'm like, how does that make any kind of sense if he's not actually a patient? Like, some random guy shows up and it pretends to be his partner and knows how to be a detective and then is actually a doctor who's worked there the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it didn't make any sense.
To reconcile.
With Chuck saying, "Oh, you're from Portland, right?" He goes, "No, Seattle," which doesn't make any sense. Right? This is the 50s. Why would the marshal's office they're in Boston. They're off the coast of Boston. Why would they send a marshal from the Seattle office to Boston? And I think immediately Teddy, he says that, and then he basically lets him know he doesn't trust him, because he says, this is a really small, this is a small group of people, us marshals. So he's basically saying, I know everybody and I don't know you.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think, and then, obviously when they're giving up their guns at the front gate and Chuck struggles to get the gun, if you're a real marshal, you've done that 1,000 times, like literally every day.
Wow. No, that's a great point.
So
that's a very good point.
But that's not proving my point.
I wondered about that scene.
That's the whole point of the movie. I mean, that's the point of the movie, is that they're giving us clues early on. Whether you want to take my point or the other point, there are clues throughout the movie. To your point that something is off. So when he's taking off, the holster, obviously that he's not a real, he's not a real marshal. The scene with the lady in when they're interviewing the patient, and she's drinking the water. She goes and gets the water. There's a few details about that that's really interesting. One, when they start talking about Dr. Sheehan, and she kind of shifts her eyes over to him, and she says, he's easy on the eyes. And then it cuts to Mark Ruffalo, and he kind of looks down, embarrassed. She's talking about him, and he's right there. And, gets the water, and that's her moment to be away. And then,
which is
a weird
scene, man.
It's weird.
Yeah. I did notice that he brings the water, and then when she goes to drink, there's nothing in her hand.
Yep.
And then, immediately after that, she sets the cup down with her other hand, which maybe that's okay. But it's just the fact that it happens so quick. She goes to drink, there's nothing in her hand, and she's putting down a cup. It looks at the ring of water on the table.
Yeah.
It's just such a strange sequence.
Sure. I mean, so it's the no water in the right hand, and then the empty cup in the left hand, which doesn't make sense, right? Because he got her a cup of water. She drank nothing, obviously, unless we're doing Hook rules, like Bangarang Peter. And then she puts down an empty cup with the left hand. And then when it cuts to the medium shot with the two shot with both of them, there's water in the cup. So Scorsese doesn't make mistakes. I don't think this is a continuity error, right? So this is what these podcasts are for us to argue what Scorsese was thinking on the day. And he's been suspiciously non-committal on what the truth is, right? Which makes me think that he's playing with us, he's toying with us, but he doesn't make these continuity mistakes. And so my guess would be that the drugs are starting to kick in maybe, and that it's showing that Teddy's starting to lose grasp of reality a little bit. He's seeing these double takes, like Fight Club, another great Martin Scorsese movie, right? Well, when he starts seeing double Tyler Durdens and things like that, I think maybe that's an example of that, just a really subtle starting to lose track of reality.
Yeah. And I guess the other place where that shows up is like the cliff scene. Where he went to the lighthouse, but he couldn't get there because there's all the water. Then he comes back, and Chuck is gone, and his cigarette is still smoking on the edge of the cliff. And he looks down, and he sees him down there. And then he climbs all the way down, and it's like just some rocks,
right?
And then all the rats come out, and he goes and he finds Rachel Solando in that cave.
Yeah.
So his partner didn't really fall. I mean, Chuck didn't really fall. Or Dr. Sheehan or whoever he is,
Right.
Why was the cigarette there?
Right.
Did he just leave it and walk away?
I'm not clear.
Was it real?
I'm not clear what the point of that was, to be honest. Because if they staged that, why would they want him to go down and talk to this other Rachel Solando? All it would make him do is distrust them even more if there's two Rachel Solandos.
And apparently she doesn't stay in the same place any 2 nights in a row. She moves around night to night. So,
which if I can interject here, here's my first of the episode is Rachel Solando, who apparently is Rambo, and has been living on this island in a hurricane multiple nights, moving place to place every night. Has a knife, right, and that's her one means of protection. And she knows how to start a fire. You realize how hard it is to start a fire in a wet cave? And she just knows how to do that? Who is this lady? She's a freaking psychiatrist / survival enthusiast. She knows how to she's just out there in the cave come on, she's Tom Hanks in Castaway.
If there's one thing I know about doctors, right, they have a lot of extracurriculars.
Yeah, but our psychiatrists really doctors?
They are.
Right. You don't have to answer that. Don't answer that.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble with anybody.
So, yeah, that is a good point. How does she know how to do that? My right is him climbing down there. Come on. Just impromptu climbing down El Capitan. By him. No harness. She just freehands it.
Yep.
I don't buy that.
It's impressive.
Makes his way back up again later.
Yep. He's multi-talented.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Another right for me would be the acting abilities of all the staff. Some of them aren't great, but some of them are very good. The freaking fake Rachel Solando, whoever they got for that,
incredible.
She killed it, dude. I think that might have actually been Emily Mortimer that they just pulled in. They brought her from Hollywood to just come be this fake Rachel Solando.
Yeah,
I mean, she got the tears. She's hugging him. She's crying. He's getting moved. I think that this scene was unscripted. I think it just happened.
It's just a real genuine moment between
it
two
cuts out to
actors.
the staff, and they're all kind of just looking at each other whoa.
Yeah, I buried you and the sharks ate your chunks or whatever she says. Whenever you see somebody, I don't know. She says chunks of you.
Didn't he die in war?
Yeah,
didn't he die in? I think he said that he was a war she's a war widow. What is she talking about with sharks?
I don't know, man. But whenever
really
somebody,
went off book.
Whenever somebody who's not kind of insane tries to pretend to be someone insane, that always makes me uncomfortable. So I think that scene of all of them in the movie made me the most uncomfortable.
Right.
Which at the end of the movie, I am okay with because she was apparently actually a nurse who was acting. But the scene where Emily Mortimer shows up in like a vision for Teddy when he's in like that office, and she comes in and she's like covered in blood, and she's got the drowned daughter with her.
Yep.
That is incredible acting.
Yeah.
From her.
Yep.
Just phenomenal scene.
Yeah.
Very well acted.
Yeah.
They showed the smoke going back into the cigarette rather than coming out of it. There's like a little reverse thing, which was cool to make the whole thing feel dreamlike and strange.
The dream sequences were incredible. Just as
There's
a
so
whole.
many of them too.
Or like dreams and the flashbacks, like the a little throw out to the sound editing guys out there. The sound when in the dream with Andrew Laeddis, where he lights the cigarette and the pull of the cigarette, just the burn of it, it's just something about that is so haunting. So all the dreams, even real or false with the wife, the kind of movie within the movie of his Dachau experiences is incredible. Which interesting history fact, that actually happened in Dachau when the Americans and the Brits freed the victims at Dachau. They shot the Nazis. So like that whole shooting sequence, that was a real historical event that happened. I mean that Dachau was, again, to tie in the German doctor, the Nazi maybe. Dachau was among the worst for the experiments that they were doing on people, and the victims in those camps. And so I think that to some degree they are kind of saying that this is a people who have no problem experimenting on humans.
I do think it's an interesting thing there's one part where the doctor tries to cast doubt.
You were at Dachau, but you may not have killed any guards.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
This is may or may not have.
Yeah, I mean, the whole sheet that he gave him, that's not convincing at all. The toy, like, he hasn't had his gun for like days. And they're like, if you just would have read this intake scene or sheet, you would have seen that it's your whole story. Like, but that doesn't prove anything. All you did was put my story and then another guy's name at the top. Like, see, here's the evidence. I'm not buying it. Not buying it, Sir Ben Kingsley.
I think that would have been really embarrassing, though, if you were Teddy in that scene, because he's like, this is my gun. I've been using this thing forever. I know it's loaded by the weight of it. And then it's a toy gun. Humiliating. Devastated. He's never coming back from that.
It's loaded by the weight of it.
I can tell.
And then he shoots him and the blood actually comes out. And he basically was just going, pew, pew. It's a fake gun.
He breaks it in his hands. Like, bro, that's embarrassing.
That's rough. That's rough.
That's as bad as it gets. He would be a little crazy after that.
That's true. Maybe that's why he decided to get the lobotomy at the end. He was like, you know what? After that gun thing, I'm not going back. I can't go back to Boston. Can you imagine the boys back in Boston like, oh, here comes Teddy Toy Guns over here. Teddy Toy Guns thinks his gun's loaded.
Teddy Toy Guns.
That seems like a Boston thing. Like, come on, Teddy Toys. Here's Teddy Toys.
I agree.
Sometimes I wish I was a Boston cop. I feel like I was a Boston cop in another life.
Toy guns, man.
Yeah. What do you think my Boston cop name would be?
Oh, I guess I was gonna say like Donnie Donuts or something, but
Donnie, why'd you change my name?
That's what I was gonna say. Your name's not Donnie, so
Johnny Joe Nuts.
That's it, dude. You found it.
It's Johnny Joe. It's Johnny Joe Nuts over here.
Not the best. I'm not good at impromptu nicknaming.
You're not good at Boston cop nicknames. You need to work on that a little bit. It's freaking. See, this is what med school does to you. It ruins that side of your brain.
Yeah. So speaking of medical stuff, so schizophrenia, which is what they're telling him that he has. So they're telling Teddy he's a schizophrenic, and that's why he's hallucinating and he's got delusions and blah blah blah. Interesting thing about schizophrenia is it's very rare that it develops as late in life as he developed it. So generally, it's going to hit you in your late teens and 20s. That's like the classic time. It's kind of college age kids.
Right.
That's when it starts to show up typically. For it to show up in like your mid to late 30s and 40s is very unusual, but it does happen. And there is a case study that is fascinating of a man who was a police officer who developed schizophrenia in his 40s, and he has every like textbook classic symptom of schizophrenia. He's a really, really interesting case to look at. I learned about him when I was going through
What's his
medical
name?
school. His name is Gerald. If you look up Gerald schizophrenia, you'll find some videos of him. And it's fascinating to watch.
All right.
He also
neurosis.
has a condition called trichotillomania, which is one of the most common psychiatric problems where you pull on your hair. So it's a little distracting, but the guy's playing with his hair the whole time. So just to forewarn you.
Play the whole thing?
I would maybe skip past the first, 10, 15 seconds.
We're already past the first 50.
Who's currently on the following medications.
Feeling so hot, I think and feel as though people have called me here to electrocute me, judge me, put me in jail, or kill me, electrocute me because of some of the sins
They're going to electrocute him twice.
It's because it's twice as important.
Must be very frightening for you, though. Feel like you're about to get killed.
I'm so scared I can tell you that picture's got a headache.
Can you tell me more about that? The picture has a headache? Do
you want to know?
Yes, I do.
Okay, when a sperm and an egg go together to make a baby, only one sperm goes up in the egg. And when they touch, there's 2 contact points that touch before any other 2. And then it's carried up into the egg. And when they fuse, it's like nuclear fusion, except it's human fusion. There's a mass loss, the proton. One heat abstraction goes up in the electron, spins around, comes back down into the proton to form the mind, and the mind can be reduced to 1 atom.
Is this Matthew McConaughey?
Jerry.
But I mean, if you're interested in that kind of thing, he's a great case study to look up. Just because
I'm getting Theo Von vibes out of him too.
It's just the accent that's getting him.
I also feel like those all things that Theo Von would say. Like, man, that I don't know about you, but that painting's got a headache. Like, if Theo Von said that, none of us would be surprised.
But you would laugh more, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, maybe I would feel not bad about laughing.
So one of the things that I think is kind of pointed out in looking at that case is that a lot of times. So what people need to understand about schizophrenia is most people with it don't understand that what they're experiencing isn't real. So like they'll hear voices, they'll see things, and they believe that they're there. They believe that these things are, a spirit or a demon or something like this that's talking to them, that's telling them, or God. Or people talking to them through televisions or through like I've had people I've talked with who have thought that like license plates and signs and things that they're just seeing in their environment were trying to communicate messages to them.
Yeah.
And so some people understand, though, we call that insight. So those people don't have insight that these things are happening to them. The people who do have a much better prognosis, a much better likelihood of living a little bit more normal life, but like they'll hear the voices and you'll talk to them and be like, do you believe what they're telling you? And they're like, no, I don't. And you can make them go away and that'd be great. I'm just trying to go about my life. So that's one thing about Teddy. If Teddy does have schizophrenia, he's still very high functioning because he's able to do an investigation and have conversations where he's making sense. I think you could argue that maybe he's got a fixed delusion,
right?
Because he believes he's an active cop. So that's why they use that diagnosis. Because if you're looking at it through the lens that you're kind of supposed to see the movie through, he's got delusions, he's hallucinating, he's got a loose grasp on reality, all of that. But if you look at it from the other lens, he's weirdly high functioning.
Right.
And then at the very end, he gets like perfect clarity and insight into what's happening, which you don't really see that.
Yep.
At least in my experience.
Yep. Well, I mean, the movie lets us decide. So you could be in my camp and think that Teddy is Teddy and that in the end, they got him. They gaslit him into the ground. Or Teddy was Andrew. He did those terrible things, saw those terrible things, and he just couldn't handle it. The weight of that knowledge broke him. And, he chose a lobotomy over the acceptance of reality. Honestly, both great movies anyway you split it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a good movie either way.
Yeah.
Just the way it's all laid out and some of the stuff with Chuck, I'm inclined to think that he probably was a patient. But I think it may be a little bit of a better movie if your theory's right.
I think so. So, hey, this is one that definitely warrants another watch through. So go back and watch it with my theory in mind and tell me I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. Oh God. Am I getting Shutter Island right now?
You just have the rage virus. That's all it is.
I can deal with that. All right. Every week we give it a chance to go through, tell what our ratings were. We do story, emotional impact, rewatchability, and Matt's going to give it a science score. I'll give it a filmmaking score. We'll crew these to see how we're rating. Matt, why don't you kick us off? What do you got for Shutter Island?
All right. Story, I gave it an 8. Loved it. Again, because it's like 2 stories. If you look at it this way.
Yep.
But I thought the story was a lot of fun. I thought it was is very interesting the whole way through. It hides a lot from you until the last minute.
Right.
It keeps you kind of guessing along the way because of those little inconsistencies it drops, which like until you hit that water scene, like the water cup scene, I thought it was all just he's a detective. At the water cup scene, I was like, there's something off here.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's something else happening. And so it kind of gives you a little hint that not everything is as it seems. Fantastic. I think it would be a good one to go back through and watch it with the other theory in mind. For rewatchability, I gave it a 5 just because I'm probably this one I didn't watch twice through before we talked about it. The ending where it actually shows what the doctor is telling him happened to his family with his wife and her drowning the kids and all that. That scene is so hard to watch, especially as it comes right at the end of the movie when you already know the character and all this. Like, it's difficult to get through. So I don't know that I'm like itching to go watch it again tomorrow, but I'll probably watch this one again. So I gave it a 5. Emotional impact, I gave it a 4. And that's mostly just because of feeling on edge the whole time. I think that was very impressive that they did that. The scene at the end was very difficult to watch. I didn't really love it just because it was hard to sit through, and you never really know if it's real. So I think it was done well so that it pulls at something almost primal in you, like something's not right. Almost like the sense of people of the same sex can usually tell if someone else is a psychopath, but the opposite sex has a harder time telling. And when you're around somebody who's a psychopath, it's like being in the water with a shark. Like you feel like you bristle up, something feels off about this person. And that sense goes through the whole movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's very impressive, but I don't know that I felt any specific emotion about it. I just felt like creepy. So 4 for that. Science realism, I gave it a 7. Partly because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's a schizophrenic, in which case, a little unrealistic that he developed it so late in life, because this presumably happened after his wife would have killed his children, which would have happened sometime in his mid to late 30s, which is unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. Or he's being drugged and having very peculiar set of symptoms with it that are hard to achieve intentionally. So a lot of it is true. Those drugs do the things that they say they do largely. If you look at it from the way it's pitched as him being a patient, it makes sense medically. If you look at it the other way, it's a little more tenuous. I gave it a 7 for those reasons. How about you?
Story, I got a 7. I think it's, as far as an adaptation of a book, it's excellently done. It's a wonderful screenplay. Like I said, it's a puzzle of a script. And that's so interesting to me that they can do that they can have so many layers and all of them kind of make sense. Like my theory makes sense to me. The other theories I'm reading online make total sense. 2 things can be true at the same time. It's like a double movie, which is really cool. Rewatchability, I have it 5. I really enjoyed watching this multiple times right now. It's probably going to be a while before I go back and see this again. It's just not a super fun watch. Like you said, it's kind of heavy. When you get past the initial, like once you already know the twist, it's fun the second time. And then after that, it's not like an everyday watch. Emotional impact, I have it 3. I actually feel like some of the scenes that, when you're talking a Scorsese and Leo, combo, they've done, I think, 5 or 6 movies together and they're all excellent. But some of the scenes that could have been really emotional, losing the wife and stuff like that, for some reason for me, it just didn't pull me like a typical Leo scene. Like, this isn't Scorsese, but same year, just parallel to Inception. When his wife jumps out of the window in Inception, that scene gives me chills. I didn't get the same here in this, and maybe it's because it's too heavy or it's compounding with too much. So some of the emotional opportunities fall flat to me. And so filmmaking craft, I have it a 5. All this together is a great movie. To me, like I was saying with the Scorsese-Leo combo, I think this is the worst one. It's still a fantastic movie. So when you compare that across everything, it's a great movie. But if I'm comparing Wolf of Wall Street, for example, or Killers, or any number of their combos together that are excellent movies, I think this is probably on the lower end. But don't murder me because I still love Scorsese. This is just one of my least favorite of them.
Right. One of them's got to be the least favorite, right? They can't all be favorite.
Exactly. And I don't know if I've seen all of them, but so far this is lower on the list. But I feel like just as a movie in its own, it's one you needed to see. It's a great twist. And just for that ending and that story, you needed to see it and needed to be on the list.
I loved it. It was very different than what we've seen so far. Really enjoyed it.
All right. That's number 10. We're 10 list movies in, and this is going to be fun because we discussed on the first episode, which is Master Disguise, which is a fun one. If you guys haven't seen it, go back and watch it. Doesn't quite look the same, maybe not the same quality, but the same characters and the same fun. And we decided that every 10, just to keep it interesting, Matt was going to get to pick the movie. And in honor of Master Disguise, which is our first one, we're calling that the Turtle Club. So Matt, I'm really excited to find out. I've been leading us through this journey. What's our first Turtle Club movie?
Well, I am pumped about this one.
Yes.
So this may come as a shock to you, but we're going to be watching Napoleon Dynamite.
It was there all along.
It was there all along.
Another twist ending.
What?
Dude, just like Martin Scorsese's Signs. It was another twist ending. All right, Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite.
It's
So
been
I
a while
have,
since I've seen it. I'm excited.
yeah, I have seen this. So aside from Master of Disguise, this is the only one that I've
Yeah.
seen before we're going to record our episode. But I'll be watching it again before we do it next week. And I'm thrilled. I am thrilled about this. I haven't seen this
I'm
one in like
excited.
10 years at least.
I haven't either, but I've seen it in clips like 100 times. You know what I mean? Like I've
Right.
gone through every best scene on YouTube, but haven't seen it all together in a while. So I'm excited. Good call. Good call. I like that. I'm excited.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, you also have the opportunity to go watch Napoleon Dynamite and join us next week as we talk through it together. After that, we're going to keep working down the movie list. We'll see you next time.
See ya.